Jamie Thomas.
Alex Malin.
My good friend, my comrade, my colleague in the treatment world. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Happy to be here.
I want to start with your story. I want to understand more about what led you into working in the treatment world. I know you have a long story.
Yeah.
But I want to tell the people how you got into treatment and helping others.
Well, I guess I've struggled with addiction most of my life, probably since about 5th, 6th grade, that like summer in between. And it's something that stuck with me for a long time and obviously ruled a lot of my life and the avenues I went down at the same time. What you'd call a high-functioning addict. And I think those two things finally came to a head at a certain point. I had my ups and downs, but, through the addiction, which was heroin addiction, or really anything that made me feel not myself.
Yeah.
So, I was able to be successful in some areas. I was able to go get a degree in a high field, be good at school during that time. And so I think there was a lot of like justifications that went into that. Like, oh, see, like I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I can succeed,
Okay.
right? Without realizing all the other areas in my life are crumbling and falling apart.
What led to the addiction, especially at such a young age?
For me, I mean, like, we can get into the genetic component. It runs through my family tree, but really it just felt ever since, like, I started becoming aware of the world, the systems in it, that it didn't feel right. I didn't feel right. There was just something felt wrong, and I didn't know how to quiet that.
How do you deal with that now? Because you and I have had a lot of existential conversations. How do you quiet that now without the use of substances, without...
I don't necessarily quiet it. Not fully. And, I've had clients ask me this over the years for various things, and it's not something that ever goes away. That feeling, the difference is I've done enough introspective work on myself that I don't let it control my life, my thoughts, my behaviors, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's still there. I honestly like that it's there. It's a reminder, right? It keeps me focused on.
And what is it?
That feeling, that just...
Is it a void, would you say?
Yeah,
or
like sometimes it's a pit, a void. Yeah.
Yeah, like a search for something deeper, or just a feeling like the world makes no sense and there's a sense of emptiness in it.
A bit of both, I would say. It's a little bit of that, this doesn't make sense to me with, what was the other thing?
What? It doesn't make sense to me, and an emptiness? The emptiness and the void, you mean?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, we'll move on.
Okay.
I'm curious. Well, first of all, you said you were a high functioning addict. I think you're modest. Jamie, you were a physicist?
Yeah, I got a degree in physics.
At what age?
20. I think I graduated when I was 26.
Okay.
Before I was 27, or about the time I turned 27.
Okay.
I was in treatment.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Right? That school, that education, that career, that research was kind of the thing anchoring me to life and sustaining that lifestyle.
Okay. And what happened? What was your rock bottom? How did it kind of lead into you seeking treatment?
I mean, there were the consequences were piling up in a rate that wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
I was totaling my car. I was selling drugs to, feed a habit. And it kept getting increasingly risky and or dangerous. And so luckily my parents, and at this point, like, they did a good job. They did the right thing. My dad at points was enabling, and, there was a little bit of that boys will be boys when I was younger. And if they had really understood the extent of what was going on, I don't think they would have had that attitude. I was very good at hiding it. My mom held the boundaries, and I probably owe my life to that. And I think, by the end of it, I wasn't allowed in their life anymore. I wasn't allowed anywhere near their house. That's not something a son should but she held boundaries, and it pushed me further to that point of no options.
Yeah.
And, finally they reached back out, and they'd been speaking with like a, drug and alcohol counselor, and they had a little intervention. And my main motivation, my dad knows me well and picked a spot for me to go get sober in California. And my main motivation was like, hey, at least I could be homeless in California if things don't work out.
Okay.
But yeah, something happened really quick in that process, and I understood, hey, maybe I have a chance to live a meaningful, joyous life.
Were you receptive to the intervention when it happened? What was that like?
Oh, yes and no. I was a little fucking shitbird. Can we curse on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Fuck yeah, we can.
I think my dad at one point said, I can't really put into words how, I was reading a letter, can't really put into words like how much you mean to me. I said, well, you seem to do a good job just being an asshole. But the one thing from that stuck with me, and it's interesting now when we talk about that pit in the stomach, and, if you have that, it's not necessarily cravings, right? I don't necessarily have drugs cravings anymore. It's the lifestyle, right?
Yeah, you've mentioned that to me before.
And the chaos of it all. I love the chaos. I thrived in the chaos.
Yeah.
And
why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe it's just stimulating. It's pushing past that dopamine threshold, getting fixes in other ways.
Do you think your intellect has hurt you in a lot of ways in the fact that you might need more stimulation in order to find some...
Possibly. Yeah. I think it also... I was talking with my partner earlier on this, and, I struggled with insomnia since 5th grade. That also played a part. And a lot of that was I just had trouble turning my brain off. Not necessarily in erasing thoughts. It just didn't know how to power down.
Yeah.
So I would be up middle of the night as like a 5th grader.
Yeah. I remember talking to you one time. I wanted to ask about this, more like what the drugs did to you. From you described to me before this sense of emptiness, not a void, but just like just a numbness. Not while you were necessarily under the influence, but it just numbed you to the world and your actions and the things you were doing. Speak a little more to that.
Well, it is both useful and scary, I think, and specifically when you get down the opiates route, right? And you're not letting natural endorphins in the body produce and bind to receptors. And so you're losing that empathy piece. You're losing your ability to love and feel loved. And so, yeah, it is scary. I felt at points like, well, traditionally though, like a psychopath, right? Antisocial now, but yes, like that. It scared me a little bit.
Yeah. So to your point, that can be nurtured, so to speak, in people, that lack of empathy.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not something that everyone's born with.
Correct.
But it could be nature and nurture.
Absolutely.
In the sense. Okay. Yeah. So you found yourself doing things that you otherwise wouldn't have done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. How long?
Not in my wildest dreams,
Yeah. How long did it take you after getting clean before you felt like that empathy was back? You started to be yourself more, started to care about others?
Pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah.
And I think this goes back to a further question of, like why the change and where you're at now. So when I was in treatment, I think, your body's starting to come, your body and your mind starting to come back to a little homeostasis. And for me, it took a while. I was also kicking methadone. Mm-hmm. So it was about six months of post-acute withdrawals. And I think that was a good motivator to stay sober moving forward. But it was really the connection piece. It was being able to genuinely connect with other people, which is something I hadn't done in a very long time.
And then,
which led me to wanting to stay a little connected in that field, right?
That was my next question, yeah.
Leading me to the fundamental understanding that I have to have connection in helping others in my role.
Yeah.
In life, in my career, in what I find purpose in.
Yeah. Do you miss that lifestyle even now?
No, I was actually thinking about that this week, and no, not really. Now that I'm like really starting to settle in and say that at like 8.5 years sober, but like, I'm building my life.
Yeah.
Right. Or I've been building my life, and now I'm really starting to settle into it, and it's peaceful and comforting and
sustainable.
Yeah. Stable.
Yeah. And more connected.
And very connected.
Yeah.
There's a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it comes through in your work. I see it on a daily basis when I work with you. It's really, I can't even imagine you without that empathy. It's an interesting, it's interesting to hear that comparison from you now to what it used to be. What's your relationship like with your parents now?
Amazing. And I mean, it got rocky, and I think it has evolved more at this point from like seeing each other as children and parents, and now we're adults, right? Mm-hmm. And so I get to have different relationships with my parents now these days, and it's more in depth and more comprehensive than probably what it was before I got sober, or even in the early years of sobriety, right? There's still trepidation there. They know what I've been like my whole life. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah. How much of your addiction do you also attribute to maybe the culture of being from the Midwest? I know a lot of people in the Midwest in small towns are like, there wasn't a lot to do, and there's a cultural aspect. Do you think that played into your experience?
Absolutely. It's everywhere, right? Not to say that it isn't everywhere, but when you get into maybe not as high economic areas, mixed with not as much shit to do in that part of the country. Like people find their own ways to entertain themselves and stay stimulated. So I would say so.
What's your perspective on 12-step programs? Because obviously, well, maybe not obvious, but I know you've gone through that yourself. It's a large part of our work at times, depending on the client. But what's your perspective on all of that, both personally and in the work that you do with others?
Personally, I've had my own experience with it. Obviously, like I did AA when I was in treatment. Like that's something we were expected to go do. I think it was beneficial in the beginning in the sense of I had lost a lot of like developmental years and what it meant to be a functioning adult in society. And so in the beginning, it was really good at provided needed structure to kind of push you out of that chaotic way of living, as well as, starting to take ownership for some things we've done in our life, right? At the same time, after about a year and a half, and this is just personally, I struggled with 12-step programs. And I found myself, each time I went, feeling further away from sobriety than if I had not gone.
Yeah.
And so I started to investigate why that is and my relationship with it and what needs it wasn't fulfilling. And I think 12-step does a terrible job at addressing trauma, right? You'll hear fuck your feelings a lot, suck it up, and that a lot of drug use comes from trauma, and I don't feel like that's the healthiest way to go about that.
Yeah.
As well as it talks a lot about ego in AA and letting go of ego. This is one of the most egotistical places I've ever been. Everyone is, it's their identity. It becomes them. And, tell people if you don't go to your meetings, you'll fucking die. And it's well, no. I've been in, almost 7 years. I'm doing good. So yes, I think one of the big, taglines of AA is principles over personalities, but I found that to not be the case in a lot of, right, there's different kinds of meetings and there were some really good ones. But I feel it's a very limiting program. Yeah. It's more maintenance. You're not growing, you're not healing.
I completely agree with that assessment. What do you think the benefits are?
Structure, accountability, and at times the connection piece. There is fellowship. I built really good relationships I still have today. I mean, by and large, those relationships have also moved away from AA for a lot of the similar reasons. I don't know too many I was close with that's still in the program, but yeah.
What are your thoughts on harm reduction in the sense of, there's varying schools of thought.
Yeah.
And some people push, black and white in the sense of sobriety, or you can't have another drink ever. You can't do anything ever. Some people, I think that might be necessary and work.
Yeah,
but what are your thoughts on
I think
do you think addicts can ever have a healthy relationship to substances?
Sure. I think it depends on the individual, and that's why we need to treat the individual, see the individual, not the case, not the diagnosis. What was the question again?
I think you just answered it. Treating the individual. I couldn't agree more. I think that's exactly how I see it, and I think that's a lot of times with some of these programs.
Harm reduction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did maintenance harm reduction meds. I did methadone. Again, when the consequences started piling up and I was just miserable of being a heroin junkie, I pulled the trigger, and at the end of the day, it did not work for me. It did not make me feel. I've still found other ways to get high around it. It honestly made me feel worse, and I think a lot of that is because I wasn't reaching the tolerance of drug effect that I needed to not feel the way I needed to feel.
Yeah.
So for me, that 6 months of methadone before going to treatment was some of the most miserable time in my life.
Okay.
That being said, I know some people who can't stay sober without that, right? I know some people who thrive in AA, and if that's their thing, good for them. If
Yeah.
that's what it takes for you to live the life you want to
Mm-hmm.
live, sure. I got buddies who I went through treatment with and did AA with, and they're able to smoke weed
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, like
Mm-hmm.
a gentleman or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for every single person, it's different. I just know my relationship with substances, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't go well.
Yeah. And I think that's part of my critique on some of these programs is blanket statementing it, like what you said, if you have another drink, you'll die. You will kill and that might be the case for some people.
Could be.
But it might not be the case for a lot of others.
Correct.
So I think treating the individual
absolutely
is a priority as opposed to, it's not cookie cutter. I think it's a little more complex than that. I think it's an oversimplification of complex issues.
As well, and I think you get a little deeper when you're getting into maintenance. And even AA, at a lot of times, you're treating the drug as if it's the problem and the drug's the solution.
Yes.
And no one's really asking what's underneath all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. What's the trigger?
What's the drive?
Source? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What happened? Where's the hurt? Where's the pain? Because that's what is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Can we get to that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a coping mechanism.
Yes.
What I like to tell a lot of clients also is it's a very effective coping mechanism.
Very much.
If you're at a level 10 distress, nothing's going to get you down to a 0 faster than a substance.
Correct.
The problem is everything that comes with, all the negative consequences.
Well, sure, it becomes a negative feedback loop is
Yes.
what it does.
Yeah.
Because not only are we stuffing all those problems down that are leading to the need to maladaptively cope, we're picking up new consequences along the way. So all that shit is still right underneath the surface and we're piling more on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I equate it, you've probably heard me say this before, but it's like coping skills, it's like you're running the marathon of life. You're a marathon runner, and coping skills are like the people on the side that hand you water to help you continue running.
Absolutely.
It's like to replenish, to be able to keep running your race. Drugs or any substance, it's kind of like someone coming on the side and hitting you in the leg with a crowbar. It's like you'll rest, you'll get your rest, you won't be tired, or you won't be exhausted from running anymore, but you're gonna have a hard time.
New thing to worry about.
You're gonna have a hard time running the rest of the race. So I agree with your perspective entirely. Now I'm gonna switch gears. I wanted to ask you something. It's something we've touched on before in personal conversations, but it's something I haven't personally had to experience, but I know you have. What's it feel like to have a client who either, I was going to say relapse, I've had that happen personally with clients I've worked with, but relapse or successfully complete suicide? What's that experience like as a clinician working with people and you find out later down the road that that's what transpired?
So I've had different relationships with it, and not necessarily as a clinician, but I worked in like detox substance abuse treatment for a handful of years. And, as the fentanyl epidemic was breaking out. And so, we had a lot of clients leave and die within that week. And so it's kind of weird to say, you almost become a little numb to it. You have it almost like a doctor or nurse with trauma where it's like you kind of got to put it out of your mind to be able to continue to help others. That being said, once I moved to more mental health primary, I think there's a lot more safeguards in place around protocols and how treatment is run. It happens a lot less. So I went a couple years working in mental health residential without anything like that happening. Then when it did, it hit me hard. Yeah.
And how do you cope with something like that?
I think it's two-prong, which is number one, understanding in the depths of my own addiction or whatever's going on, whatever challenges, struggles, pain people are in, like, it can be relief, right? And sometimes it's the only relief people can end up finding in life. So understanding that and understanding the ripple effect, how exhausting supporting those with addictions or trying to manage those with addictions, like parents or friends, it can take a toll on other people too. And yes, it can be sad and devastating and heartbreaking when that happens. There's also a bit of relief.
Yeah.
That I don't think gets talked about enough.
Yeah.
Men, listen up. If you're struggling in your relationships, if you're struggling in your career, if you don't know what direction to take in life, maybe you're depressed, maybe you're anxious, what you need is a blueprint and a framework to identify your obstacles, and you need some techniques to learn how to overcome those obstacles. If you need help getting your life moving in the right direction, send us a message and let's kickstart your transformation today.
The other aspect, I would say, what was the question again?
How do you cope with?
Yes. I think the other thing would be it adds a much needed context to the work we do, right? It makes the ones that are so successful in dealing with their challenges that much more rewarding.
Yeah.
And I think when I can switch to that lens, it helps me move forward and continue to connect and help.
Yeah. It's like when you have those success stories, and they don't happen every day, but when you do, it makes it you cherish it a little bit more, right? It's like it reminds you why we do what we do. Yeah. I'm gonna switch gears again, but what do you think are the most common guy problems that you see?
Identity formation, and specifically, I don't think it's a guy problem. I think it's an everybody problem in the young adult field, but it lends to some very specific problems with guys. So I think what I've been seeing, and I think if I ever want to go down like the research route, this is where I would go with the young adults. There seems to be a bit of a disconnect I see with therapists and their clients of that age around identity and identity formation and what their reality actually is. And the truth is most of these people or these young adults are getting their identities formed in digital spaces, digital communities. And that is their reality, and I don't think people are treating it as such. So I see therapists trying to pull it back and relate it to the physical real world, and at the same time it dismisses their actual reality and parts of who they are and the communities they've connected to. So it gets a little interesting, though, because digital spaces are more chaotic, right? There's a lot more avenues to go down, and then, right, it plays into, we're seeing a rise of distorted masculinity, I would call it.
Yeah, well said.
With like Andrew Tate's, it's like that, where it is people feeling entitled or owed something just for their identity. So that can be a big one, and I think the other overarching theme is because their main space is these digital spaces, and while I disagree on the deeper level that it is more connecting. I think the evidence is showing it's actually quite more isolating in the long run. It feels or it's dressed up as being more connected with the world. And so more and more I am finding young men coming in who have anchored their own individual well-being to the well-being of humanity and the well-being of the world. And there is no recipe for success in that. And so, like trying to differentiate that has been a common theme I've been seeing lately with men.
How do you think we can help create a healthier relationship for these young men with the digital space or with their identity? How do we solve that problem on a more individual level with our clients?
Still trying to figure it out. Honestly. Having a willingness to learn that, I think, is going to be imperative. And having willingness to learn who they actually are in those spaces.
I think you just touched on something that, I mean, it ties back into what we were just saying about treatment programs or 12-step programs around like one size fits all. And I think as a clinician, and I think the reason you and I get along so well is because we don't pretend to know it all.
Oh, God,
and
no.
I think I see a lot of therapists or clinicians that do think their way is the right way for clients to live their lives. And I think what I think is more important is, like, we're just people. We're like, I can't tell a client what to do, but it's how can I extract from them and cultivate in them who they really are.
Correct.
Yeah. Not about pushing my agenda onto what I think is best.
No, not at all. And really, I do see that a lot. Especially in that realm, and that's where people get tripped up. Yeah. I feel like when you're dealing with your more, traditional depressed or anxious client, therapists do a lot better job of not imparting their beliefs or like having that awareness of not bringing those beliefs in. But when it becomes such a maybe fringe topic, right, where there probably are some more extreme views or less understanding, it gets harder to confidently wade into those waters without bringing some of that in. And I think that's what I see sometimes.
Yeah. I'm curious, what do you think about young men? And I see it all the time, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just talking about in terms of the digital world, but immediate gratification versus delayed gratification. Yep. I think that is
that's
one of
another
the biggest
huge
issues.
One, and it's brought on, I think, by and large by the technological age we live in, and again, social media, stuff like that.
That's a key component of addiction, essentially, right? So it's the same.
I mean, we work together. How many impulse problem clients do we have right now?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it seems, you're right, also to be a very common theme.
Yeah. How do we work that muscle for them to help them delay gratification more, to steer away from those impulses?
Teaching them to slow down. Presence, mindfulness, that's usually the route I go, and understanding it's probably going to be a long journey to really make some progress in that.
Yeah. And as I know, you've also done a lot of work in female residential houses. What do you think is the biggest difference that you see in working with males versus females in the residential setting?
How they express their issues. Men,
how so?
It's so behavioral.
Yeah.
In the female space, it's a lot more emotional, right? It's going to be sitting and talking and crying and a lot more of that rather than I feel uncomfortable, I need to act out for whatever reason, right? To whatever end. So yeah, it's a lot more behavioral with the men. And obviously there's a lot of different societal influences playing into different things as well. A lot more, body image and eating stuff with the females. Tend to see a lot more anger with the men.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I could tell you why the female side is, obviously. It's built into everything we do. Like what women are supposed to look like.
Of course.
Objectified. It's all throughout media, like the movies, like everywhere you look, women are told what they're supposed to look like, think like, feel like. They've felt like caged animals in their own world and own society, and it has long-lasting effects.
Absolutely.
In terms of the anger, I think the ones I've more recently been seeing, I think it ties back into that well-being of the world. I'm angry at the world. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not doing well. That means I'm not doing well.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think also what I see is, anger is one of a lot of us growing up in like masculine environments. Anger is one of the only emotions that's really acceptable.
Sure.
That's a masculine emotion.
Correct. Yes, whereas, there is also that.
Yeah. What do you think? I also see this a lot in our work is the role of men in society has shifted. So I think a lot of men lack that sense of identity because they don't know what role they're supposed to play. I think I've spoken about it on here before, but times have changed clearly.
Sure.
Men, obviously with more equality in the workplace, bridging that pay gap where women are able to be a lot more successful nowadays in careers, right? Like there's more equality in that realm. I think if you take it back to like hunter-gatherer days, it's like men's role was to hunt and to, bring home the bacon, so to speak, whether literally or figuratively.
Sure.
Now, with the rise of women doing that, do you think a lot of men, what I perceive is a lot of men are questioning, well, if they can do that, then what am I left with? What's my role? What am I doing? If everyone could hunt for themselves, what's my role in the societal system and within a family system? And
fear-based anger.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely think that definitely plays into it. It's a inflection point in societal evolution, right?
Yeah.
And inflection points are change, which is uncomfortability. It takes work to get through change, a better person, right? So figuring out what my role is or who I can be or how I can find peace and fulfillment and connection and what I'm doing in life now is going to take that work on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because even as someone who grew up in the 90s, it looks a lot different than it did then even.
For sure. And I'll be honest, I think I'm a little scared for the future around, because historically, the point I was trying to make was like men historically have been providers. That's not necessarily the only role anymore, but also as AI and technology furthers, it's the need for certain work and labor isn't necessary as much as it used to be. So if we're not providing in certain areas or there's no need for the skills that I have, where do we go from there?
You figure out new ways to provide that is in line number one with the way society and our communities are shifting, right? Yeah, maybe start providing a little bit more emotional nourishment.
That's where my mind went too. I think that's something that people
Why can't we
need.
do that? Why can't that be a provider role for me?
Which brings up the point I saw last week or the week before that someone got married to their AI girlfriend or proposed to their AI girlfriend.
Bless them.
So I mean, emotional nourishment, is it only a matter of time before AI can provide that as well? Or I guess it depends on what your definition of emotional nourishment really is. Because AI, I think, could validate you, in terms of, like, you could teach a robot to say, like, I think you're right, or you look beautiful today, honey. But can it really provide the connection that you think us as humans need?
No, because there's biological components that go into that. Like, we go all the way back to attachment theory with the caregiver and the child, right? This is how we build empathy in our lives, and that there's a linking up of the autonomic nervous system. Like, try doing that with ChatGPT and tell me how that goes. I think.
Yeah.
And it's scary because I see people moving in that direction. They're using AIs as companions. They're using them as clinicians. And there's just the humanistic piece that I don't think is ever going to be there on a biological level.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to instant gratification.
Yes.
You know, if AI is providing me everything I want, everything I think I need right away, then what's the use for humans, or what's the need to struggle? But I think the imperfections of human connection is what makes it connective.
Yes.
It has to be imperfect.
It can't not be imperfect.
Yeah. What's pleasure without pain?
Correct.
So if everything is seamless and smooth and easy, then I won't be happy because I have no reference point to compare it to. So I don't know where we're headed, but I think it's a really scary place.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about addiction?
I mean, like, yeah, there's still that stigma that comes with it, that it's changed and it's gotten better over the years, but we still don't treat drug users the same way we would someone with depression or trauma, bipolar. There's still that built-in societal stigma that comes along with it. With, you know, there's still people out there. Hey, it's a choice, you know, or I don't think it still is completely looked at in the same light as a lot of other mental health issues, and I think some of that is the progress across the board, but I think we've also made a little too much progress, and there has been a era of romanticization in the younger kids in diagnoses, mental health issues. But when I see that, it tends to go more towards your more traditional ones, right? I don't see people romanticizing as much, you know, addiction.
Yeah.
Outside of certain areas in life.
Yeah. So in working more on the mental health side now, as opposed to addiction as a primary, how does the work differ? And what aspects of mental health treatment do you enjoy most in working with clients more on that end?
I feel like it's more open and accepting. There's very much, at least when I worked in it, you know, the substance abuse field, there is a qualifying aspect to it where, if you're a clinician or a staff and you're trying to help these addicts get sober, like, they're going to test you on whether they think you're qualified enough to do that. Specifically, do you have history with substances, right? Because if you don't, I don't want to hear what you're saying. You don't understand, right? And so there seems to be an inherent component of lived experience that is baked into the substance abuse primary field. That can make it a little harder to navigate at times. It can make it easier if you have that lived experience and you can really connect with these people, but there's a little bit of a barrier to it, I feel like.
Yeah. Do you think also the part of the client in that case, do you think that's a lot of avoidance in the sense of I'm going to discredit whatever is said to me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But it is part of it. Yes, it's avoidance.
It's a challenge.
Addicts are great at avoidance.
Yeah. Something that came up for me as you were saying about the stigma around addiction was someone in my life one time we were having a conversation about addiction and just a quick comment was made like, oh yeah, those yucky drug addicts. And I about like lost my mind because it was an adjective that I thought was so unfair and was very judgmental and just fed that stigma. But a part of me felt helpless in that moment of like, this is that person's perspective. Yeah. And I don't really know how to like show them that there's people underneath. Like it's not these people that are just coming to rob you so that they could feed their drug habit. It's like that's a person that is struggling deeply. And it's like I don't know, how do you think we can help people understand more that there is a human being underneath it? How do we make that more real for people that don't have that personal experience with it?
Continued awareness, continued research, continued policies that are going to effectively fund and address these sort of things to get it more in the forefront. And not that it isn't necessarily, but in a different way, and so that we can view it in different ways. So I think going back to the depressive person. For them, a lot of times their drug is self-harm, right? But we don't view those two things as the same way, or everyone by and large doesn't. At the end of the day, it's even, chemically in the body, it's doing some very similar things.
Absolutely.
So just bringing more awareness of like, hey, that is the processes going on. And even though it looks different over here and it may seem a little, darker, not darker, but more in your face in society, right?
Yeah.
The people who are self-harming aren't going to the street corner and cutting, right? For the most part, I would say. So, I think bringing more awareness to what's actually going on in that, again, like the drugs aren't the problem, right? The self-harming isn't the problem. Is it bad? Yes.
The symptom.
It cause consequences. Yeah. Is it but no, that's not the problem. So can we, as a society, start to look at people as people and get curious about their pain and their flaws?
Yeah, something I've said before.
Traumas.
Yeah, something I've said before is we make a big deal about the cartels coming in and selling drugs, and it's like we question the people supplying it, but do we ever question why there's such a demand?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like that never gets brought up.
Yeah.
It's always like we need to keep them out. Well, why do so many people want it?
Hey, when COVID popped off, no one questioned the demand for toilet paper, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. No, it's a relationship, right? Everyone has a part. We need to effectively analyze all the parts and not just the ones that are comfortable.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think part of it is this veneer that we think we need to uphold. Yeah. What do you think is going to be the last question, but what do you think was the single biggest contributing factor to you overcoming your addiction? If you had to boil it down, obviously that it's way more complex than that, but.
Focusing on the internal, really completely the internal, because I'd lived in the external for so long. And I remember when first week I got to treatment, I was, 40 pounds less, like shivering what looked like a skeleton, sitting in a group, just trying to get my bearings. And might have been what you'd call a throwaway group, right? Just whatever, some questions. And I remember just one question is, hey, what do you want from sobriety? What do you want from treatment? What do you want for your life?
Yeah.
A lot of people had different answers, and all of them made sense, right? Hey, I want to be able to show up for my family. I want to be able to start my own family. I'd like to be able to hold a career down that I'm passionate about. And just remember, I just want to be happy and have peace of mind. Like, I don't know the last time I had that. I was probably a small child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I found, focusing on those things, everything else falls into place.
Yeah. Focusing on values.
Focusing on values, focusing on what I believe, right?
Yeah.
What kind of connection do I want in life? What kind of people do I want in my life? What kind of person do I want to be for others? What kind of person do I want to be for myself?
Yeah.
So I think, I went through treatment. I went and lived in sober living, and I remember the moment I didn't have a car because I'd, went on a speedball bender and totaled it. And so I'm living in a sober living, is working a very humbling get well job at Sprouts, like unpacking the warehouse and making, California minimum wage and sharing a bedroom with another adult that I'm paying $1,000 to do. And, I don't have a car. I'm literally riding someone else's bicycle that they let me borrow to get to my job. And I just remember riding one day, and it was sunny and birds were chirping. And externally, I did not have a lot going on, and I never felt happier in my life and more at peace. So focusing on that internal is where that success and that feeling of comfortability comes from, as well as that motivation to continue to grow and change.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's simple when in the sense of what you said in terms of looking internally, asking yourself, what's important to me? What do I want out of sobriety, out of life? I've asked 4 or 5 clients something similar this week of what do you want? None of them could really answer that. And it just showed me how many of us don't even think to ask ourselves those simple questions. And it's hard to get where you want to go if you don't even know what that looks like or what you really want.
And again, I think that ties it back into that big overarching societal theme. And I think we're being taught not to ask those questions.
Yeah. To just chase endlessly
gratification, the quick fix. That's what we're addicted to. The quick fix, the quick solution.
Yeah. We need to ask ourselves these questions if we're going to get anywhere.
And that's why, hey, like we kept getting clients who couldn't feel uncomfortable. They thought they needed to feel pleasurable at all moments in life. And if they weren't, something was wrong.
Yes. Sit with the discomfort. Nothing's wrong. It's you need that.
Do a little hard work and sacrifice to reap the long-term benefits, the happiness, the success, the comfortability, the contentment that comes on the other side of that.
Yeah. If you were to leave the people with one piece of wisdom going forward, what would you say?
See if we can see each other as people. See if we can have the confidence and the bravery to really sit with other people's pain and flaws and struggles, as uncomfortable as it is. And it doesn't have to be some big grand thing. Not everyone needs to become therapists. Just sit and be present with people, because that can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
See them.
Yeah. Be a person.
Be a person.
Yeah.
That's half of what my therapy work is. Yeah. I'm just being a person to another person, because they haven't had that in a lot of areas in life.
I love that. Thanks, Jamie. I appreciate you.
Thanks
I love you, man. Thank you.
I love you too.
Thanks, brother.